Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
It's me, bub.
And Steven.
I hate you. I hate you so much.
Is that what you were going to say?
He stole it.
I was going to say back at you, bub.
Okay, so this week we're doing another roundtable.
Yeah.
If you've listened to the Alien Romulus episode, you may have an idea of what's kind of going on here.
Yeah.
But basically, the general concept, concept, whatever, is one of us has not seen this movie. Two of us have seen it. We're just going to kind of just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Just because we don't get to see every single movie we want to see or not want to see.
Yeah.
And but we still want to talk about some of the fun stuff that happens in it. So we're talking about Deadpool 3, Wolverine and Deadpool.
Deadpool and Wolverine, which is the third Deadpool movie.
Okay, gotcha. So
Deadpool,
if you can't tell,
Wolverine,
Andrew hasn't seen
the movie. So just out the gate, spoilers are going to be everywhere. There's not going to be an ad break in this.
No filter here, no walls.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the
flowing.
movie and you want to see it and you don't want to get spoiled, don't listen to this episode. Go listen to something else.
Yeah.
Well, another one of our episodes.
We've got a lot of other things to choose from.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so just as a quick precursor, I've never seen any Deadpool films.
Mm-hmm.
He is not a Reynolds vert.
Well, okay, so I will say
That's a Ryan Reynolds pervert for those at home.
I am slowly coming on to Ryan Reynolds.
Nice.
So
Oh my! Does Blake Lively know?
So I started watching. I watched Van Wilder not terribly long ago,
Well,
and then I watched Waiting.
So
and
was-
I hadn't seen those
Now,
films before.
so this was the first
Spirited?
time-
when I was Spirited, your first introduction to him?
No. I've seen other Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds films like Free Guy.
Oh, we saw Free Guy. That's right.
But
Yeah.
let me pause real quick.
Yeah.
Because Van Wilder was the first Ryan Reynolds movie that I saw, and I
Same.
watched it in theaters back in
seen theaters.
03, 02,
Yeah,
04.
I don't know,
somewhere
somewhere
in
around
there.
there.
Well, sorry, that wasn't my first. The first time I saw him was Two Guys and Girls on a Pizza Place on ABC.
Okay, that's irrelevant.
That was the
Anyways,
first movie I saw him in where I was like, write that down. I was like, this guy's funny.
I was like, this guy
this guy's
gets it,
great.
yeah.
I loved Van Wilder at the time.
It does not age well.
I have seen it recently. Still makes me laugh in a lot of scenes.
no,
Oh, no,
It's
it makes
still
you laugh.
funny.
You just feel like a worse human being.
Yeah,
for laughing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely the peak of that. Like American Pie came out, and there was all bets are off, baby.
This is pure raunch
comedy,
Yeah.
which I do miss. I miss raunchy, like good raunchy
just,
comedies.
yeah, just let it fly, you know?
Yeah. Anyways,
But yeah, so I've never been a really big fan of Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
So a lot of the movies I've seen him in always feel like he's just playing himself, and that's fine. There are
Yeah.
actors that do it. I just don't really vibe with Ryan Reynolds playing himself.
Right.
Now, I loved him in Spirited, but mostly because that's a musical. I like Will Ferrell a lot, and I think the movie itself is actually quite fantastic. But so I'm curious because I don't know anything about Deadpool besides he's just a comic book character that apparently can't die. And the only information I actually have on him was from the Wolverine movie, which I did see.
Oh, good lord.
which one?
The movie with him and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
in it.
Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
My God.
That's terrible. That's not good.
My God.
So,
They
and
actually
I
make
know-
fun of it in this film.
Yeah, I know going into Deadpool and Wolverine, I know this is people everywhere that I've seen have genuinely liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, it made over a bill. It broke a bill.
It's the most.
It's
what
the
is
highest-
it?
highest
Highest
grossing
grossing
R-rated
R-rated film. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you asking like, do we like it?
Yeah. What did you think?
I liked it. I think that it was a lot of fun. I think that there are definitely some issues with it, and it's very ADD. It's very all over the place.
No, it's not ADD. It's ADHD.
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
think
get
that
hyper in
there's-
there.
I definitely think that there's a lot of, and I haven't seen these films, so
Yeah.
I just assume that is also possible of just an issue of modern filmmaking.
No, this
No.
is its own on steroids. Like
Okay.
this film will legitimately bury you in one-liners.
Okay.
It's
And then they'll have
Yeah.
a moment where everyone kind of pauses, and you're like, "Oh, thank God!" So, okay, back in.
I rewatched the first Deadpool and Deadpool 2 leading up to seeing this movie. And it's definitely an escalation of like, here's how many one-liners and violent scenes and references and fourth wall breaks we have in the first movie. And now let's multiply it by 2 for the second movie. Now let's multiply it by 10 for the third movie.
let's drop
So
an
this
exponent
is
on
like
this one.
like cranking it up to 11.
Maybe not quite that much, but it's definitely to the point that like when I got out of the third movie, I was like, man, if they could have had just a few less gory scenes, Fourth wall breaks.
I didn't actually have a
references.
big issue with some of the gory.
So when you say gore,
I'm just saying
explain,
overall.
what level of gore are we talking about? Are we talking like Alien Romulus levels of gore?
So it's never
than that.
realistic enough to be like, ugh. But I mean, they have what's his name? Chris Evans shows up as Johnny Storm.
That's one of the best. It's probably my highlight of the movie.
Is that the flame guy?
Fantastic Four.
Okay.
Flame on guy.
The flame guy, the Human Torch. You put some respect on that name.
So they encounter the big bad villain of the movie.
Who's the big bad villain?
So her name is Cassandra.
Is this a character that I would have any idea?
No.
Okay, then don't worry about it.
She's a deep cut. Well, she's also kind of important here, but she's a deep cut. She's also Charles Xavier's twin.
Okay, I thought you were about to say wife. I'm like, did he have a wife?
No, I don't know about that one.
Well, but he married a lady from the Shi'ar Empire during the Phoenix Saga.
Gosh,
Not a big deal.
Nerd. Long lost twin. Not super important, but she has roughly similar powers.
Okay, so she's psychic.
A bit, yeah. Although I will say they do a phenomenal job.
Yes.
So she has a line in here where she's like, I can do the same things he can,
but better.
But I just have to get my hands dirty.
The CG
puts her fingers like
into your brain,
into people's skulls. So like they have bits where her hand is blatantly in the back of someone's head and the fingertips are poking out of their forehead. And as she's talking, she's kind of moving her hand in there.
So
it's like her hand is phasing through them a little bit.
I was like, is it like in their head?
It's not like moving their skin
explosion.
Sometimes though.
Oh, okay.
But it's not like bursts out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's like at first you think she's psychically doing it, but then you see like the skin move a little bit, and you're like, it's like there's resistance to it. Does that make sense?
An impressive body horror moment. When you're just like, holy cow, this is uncomfortable.
But to me, again, it shows resistance, like the skin.
Yeah.
That's like them resisting mentally. It's like a weird.
See, like when her hand slides in, like you can kind of see like where the fingers start to push the skin out before they actually phase through. Oh, and it's like when she does it towards the end with the TVA flunky dude.
Yeah.
And like his eye kind of like he does one of those things where like her fingers are coming through and it goes near his eye and his eye kind of shifts.
His eye shifts as if you're like,
width.
Oh, no, I don't like that.
And it's like, ugh. Like it's for everything in the movie where you're like, it's like it won't stop. Whenever she's on screen, everything slows down. Like and it gives her this incredible air of menace because. Everything just like the brakes get slammed down, and it's like we're focused on this one thing, and just
so back to the gore thing, right?
Yeah.
So the premise with Deadpool, and this is a tiny bit of backstory from the comics, right? Wolverine originally in the 70s when he came out, he had a healing factor, but it was like, if he got shot, instead of it taking him a week or two to heal, it would take him a day.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it was.
Like invincible
and then
levels.
it became this arms race where every writer got a hold of Wolverine or the X-Men would escalate how much his healing factor could actually do.
Yeah.
And he kept coming back from the brink of like so much that by the time you get to like the late 70s, early 80s, really it's like the early mid 80s, before they got to the 90s run where it's all out. It was like the guy's like a starfish. You can't destroy him.
There's a sequence in like later comics.
Can you destroy starfish?
Where he's dead.
If you cut an arm off starfish, it goes back.
I know.
We're like he's
starfishes
dead.
are indestructible,
and they have a knife that just has some of Wolverine's blood on it, and they grow Wolverine from that.
Right.
Like
that's in the mid 90s.
Oh,
that's silly.
Yeah. Again, the worst thing to me that they did with the character of Wolverine in the comics was made him indestructible. Like because once
what's the
there's
point?
Still like some stakes in the earlier stuff, and then once you get past like a certain level. So what I'm getting at is in the 90s when they created Deadpool, the idea was they basically took some of Wolverine's healing factor, tried to make this Wade Wilson guy into a mutant. That part stuck, but it disfigured him, and that's why he has all the burns. He doesn't have an adamantium skeleton. He can just heal. So with Deadpool, it was the comedy of like, he's going to lose an arm every issue. He's going to get run over by a van and be like, "Arr!" as he like heals back.
he's just a dude who heals.
He's Binks from Hocus Pocus.
Yes, actually, yes. He really
very
is.
much so. But before he did all this.
Horrible comparison. It's so good.
Terrible. But before he got his powers, he was a mercenary. He's really good with the sword. So it's like now he's that and he's indestructible basically, right? So in the first Deadpool movie, there's quite a bit of gore with like he loses a hand at one point, but they play it for some good comedy where it starts to grow back and you get to see it as a baby hand. And so like he has this roommate who's blind and he's talking to her and he starts, you don't know what's happening. And in the middle of the scene, this little baby hand just starts rubbing her face and she goes, what is touching my face? You know? And he's like, don't worry about it. And it's like just this tiny little, on the end of a human wrist is this little, So they make fun and they play with the idea of his healing factor a lot in the movies. In this third one, we've gotten to the escalation of a lot of the gore. So there's a scene in this where there's like 100 Deadpools from 100 different multiverses, and they're just mowing through it. Just
so
like,
is this like Spider-Verse levels of just like total nonsense?
A bit, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of absolute nonsensical Deadpools.
The worst part is that, like, I would say a good chunk of the middle of the movie makes really good sense. They start and end with some stuff that's like, okay, y'all were close to having like a cohesive rules to this universe, and then so at the very front.
So Endgame.
Even worse. So like
worse than that,
in Deadpool 2,
they're like, you're watching a Deadpool movie. Don't worry about it.
It really is. But then there's other parts that are consistent and make sense.
And
so
it's like
frustrating.
it's like so tightly done in the middle. Yeah.
And you're like, wait, if y'all just worked a little more about the ends of it. So the rough idea is that, like, in Deadpool 2, Cable, who is a time traveler from the future, he's
already a problem.
He's Scott Summers and Jean Grey's son.
Yeah.
He comes back in time to kill this kid. Deadpool saves him. Whatever.
So he's Terminator.
Yes,
a little bit.
A little bit.
Actually.
Yeah. But Deadpool steals his watch that lets him travel through time.
Oh, okay. I was like, just his watch, his Rolex.
His time Rolex, his Timex, if you will.
No.
And he uses it in the second movie to like bring his girlfriend back.
Okay.
At the end, because she dies
About
midway
first third,
Whatever,
Yeah.
So in this movie, it starts off with him sitting there talking to Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau's character from Iron Man.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
At Avengers Tower.
I don't know who that
applying
is.
to be a member of the Avengers.
He wants to be a member of the Avengers. And you're like, wait, how did he get from his universe over to here? And they just go, he used the watch. And I'm like, but it's a time travel watch. It's not a universe hopping watch, is it?
Yeah, they just like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We wanted a cool scene where he tries to be so that to me is the initial premise of the movie is weak, because in the second movie, it's like him and his girlfriend that he meets in the first one now have a relationship. They want to have a kid. They want to take it to the next level. She dies. By the end of the movie, he brings her back.
Yeah.
Right? The third movie starts off, they've broken up. And he's at his low.
Like off screen, like Indiana Jones and Dial of Disappointment.
He's selling cars.
But it's
he's
actually used much better than that.
It is, 100%.
By a wide margin.
By a wide margin. But that's the inciting incident. He's a loser. He's like selling cars. He wants to be a member of the Avengers. And it's like,
he wants to prove he can do something.
Yeah. And the way that they kick it off is by basically just desecrating the movie Logan. Because Logan in 2017.
With Logan?
No.
It's fantastic.
I mean, I know
It's
that
actually a spectacular movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil anything from Logan for you. But I will say that, like, a lot of people were concerned about bringing Wolverine back because how well Logan ended. It just like was a perfect end cap.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Isn't that just like part of its own like thing? Why would it matter if he's
so in this movie they've connected it that this is Deadpool's.
This movie is an absolute love letter / homage to the Fox era X-Men movies.
But is Logan part of that continuity?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
See,
that's where the original X-Men films come from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen the first 3.
Right.
But I didn't know if, like, anyways.
Logan, the main characters in Logan, ignoring girl is...
X-23.
Yeah,
ignoring her is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Picard.
Well, because I know, like, Hugh Jackman just
Picard, Patrick Stewart's
Charles
Xavier.
Well, I know, like... Hugh Jackman just plays Wolverine, but I don't know, like, from my perspective, he's just playing the same character, but in different continuities because
they basically,
the rights are moved.
They basically
moved
find
around.
a way to overlap the continuities.
Okay, gotcha.
Here.
So the good things I love about this movie, right, is that number one, it's a love letter to the Fox X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
So
which I actually really like the first 3. I know people don't like Last
The third
Stand,
one's
but
terrible.
I liked it.
it was at least entertaining.
The Fox X-Men movies, the second one rips. It's awesome. Are just inconsistent.
Yeah.
And it's the problem of they would lose the rights if they didn't make a movie every
they
few
have to.
years.
It's a Fantastic
and
Four
they would
issue.
literally contradict their own continuity from the movie before.
Yeah.
And you're like, did you not watch the last film you put out?
Don't worry about it, nerds. It's a comic book. Yeah.
So
anyways.
in this movie, they make a lot of allusions to that stuff, but everybody was worried you're going to ruin Logan. So they start the movie off by digging up the bones of Logan from the end of the first movie and just desecrating his corpse as the opening credits. Just set your fears aside. We're going to get like
the TVA mooks, right, from Loki,
which is the time
are coming
variance.
out
Yeah,
of
I'm
coming out
familiar.
of the portals to arrest him for his crimes against the timeline. And meanwhile, he's committing crimes against Wolverine. He's fighting them with the adamantium bones of Wolverine.
Okay.
It's absurdly over the top.
It's absurdly over the top. So,
and it also has a hilarious trivia because they're playing Bye Bye Bye,
which in X-Men 2, 3, when they get into the car with Rogue and Pyro
and Cyclops.
It kicks on. It's like bye bye bye. Yeah. And so they the whole opening is Deadpool doing like the actual choreography from the NSYNC video.
Nice.
While killing everybody.
So that's it's not Ryan Reynolds doing the dance moves.
Aww.
And when the guy who does it, he got casted for it, his agent literally called him and was like, hey, I need video of you dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. Do you think you can get me that to me in like 2 hours? He's like, I'm at home visiting my parents. It's like, if you can do it, I can get you a gig. What is it? I can't tell you. You just have to do this. Like, all right.
Yeah. I'm your guy. But so
anyways,
after it kicks off, right, they immediately start making fun of Disney. And they start making fun of Fox. And that's the best part. Because, again, Wade Wilson breaks the fourth wall. Yeah. Right?
He's like She-Hulk.
But
better.
Worse. Different.
Depending on your perspective.
Because She-Hulk in the comics would always break the fourth wall to talk to not only the audience, but the creators.
Oh.
Yeah.
Deadpool really just talks to the audience.
Duck, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Deadpool sometimes breaks fourth wall just to talk to himself.
He does.
Probably my favorite Looney Tunes skit is the episode where Daffy Duck
takes
basically
the pencil.
fights
the pencil.
Fights the artist.
Yeah. That's She-Hulk.
Yeah, okay.
She-Hulk is in a conversation with John Byrne, the creator and stuff. Anyways, back to Deadpool. So he starts, he realizes that, he's going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's like, I'm going to be MCU Jesus. I'm going to save this dumpster fire. And he's like, because let's be honest, he's like, everything after Endgame's been pretty rough. And so he starts, go ahead.
But it ends up with them ending up in the Void.
Oh, hold on. I'm building to that.
Oh, well, I'm trying to move us along here.
I'm trying to skip to it, though. So
we're not supposed to do a recap.
We're not recapping. He's making fun of Disney.
You almost caught me monologuing.
I'm going to break Steven's fourth wall. As I was saying, the thing I like about the movie is that he makes fun of Disney. He makes fun of the MCU in its current state.
As you should.
And he makes fun of Fox and all the Fox X-Men movies and how bad they got. And he's like, I'm going to Disneyland. He's like all about but they set this up in this scene right here where on these monitors in the TVA, you see all these scenes from different MCU Avengers and stuff. And he talks about Captain America. He sees one scene where like Thor is like holding Wade, like, no, crying over me. He's like, is Thor crying over me? Where's that from? And so later they banish him. So did you watch the Loki TV show?
Yes.
Okay.
I just watched the first season. I didn't watch the
that's
all you need.
So in the first season they have that like the level where there's all the different Lokis. So they basically end up banishing Deadpool there.
Okay.
Right? And so when he's down there, you have all these people that are like start popping up, right? And it's like Mad Max, and it's all
it is Mad Max.
It's
just
all the rejects from the Fox characters. So it's like Pyro from X-Men 3, and like they got the actual actors for most of them to come back.
Fun.
You have Toad from the first X-Men. You have Sabretooth, you have I mean it's like it just keeps going.
Sabretooth from the Wolverine Origins movie?
The first X-Men.
First X-Men.
The one with all the hair and the big eyebrows.
Yeah.
So but right before that, sorry, just to catch up, they do this montage of him looking for Wolverines.
Okay, now this is actually hilarious.
He's going funny.
To all these different universes, he finds like comic book accurate Wolverine who's like 5'2". He finds Cavalrine, so it's Henry Cavill as Wolverine. And he's like, oh man, this guy, you're the complete package. Look at this. Holy cow. You come over with us. We'll treat you way better than those other guys.
Yeah. Henry Cavill is definitely the full package.
Hey-o. But that's a really fun scene where you get a lot of like comic book references. You see Age of Apocalypse Wolverine in there. You see like
it's just
all these like iconic comic book covers are recreated.
Need the knowledge.
So here's a question: Did they ever switch over into like actually like any kind of like animated looking stuff, like kind of like multiverse?
It does never does
just live action versions
where
of
he
what
becomes
it would
like 2D or that never does that.
Yeah. But they get to the I can't remember what they call that place.
The Void?
The Void, is that what it's called? That's it? Okay. Yeah. They get to the Void and all these people are coming up. And then like it's Wolverine and Deadpool, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, this is gonna be tough."
They also use it as an excuse for the two of them to hate each other and fight because they can fight forever.
Yeah,
because they both can't. Neither of them can kill each other. Yeah. Which
infinite life hack.
Sorry, the Wolverine he ends up picking is the worst Wolverine. He gets the worst Wolverine from the worst timeline, the one that let all of his X-Men friends die and like is just washed up alcoholic.
Screw up. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like
Hugh Jackman plays that well.
Hugh Jackman makes this entire movie.
Hugh Jackman acts his butt off.
He's
in this
taking
film.
the material and he's like, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna make this incredible. Because again, the arc that his Wolverine goes on is a total redemption arc by the end of it, right? But when they're down there, they're also fighting on this crumpled up old 20th century Fox logo.
Yeah.
But when all the bad guys start rushing up, this is my favorite cameo because there's tons of cameos. Is you hear this person in this hood says like, you know, not today or something, and it's Chris Evans' voice, and you're like, oh, and Ryan Reynolds like, oh, it's happening. Deadpool's like, yeah, and he goes, ready? And Ryan Reynolds Deadpool's like, Avengers Assemble, and he goes, flame on, and he burns off the thing, and it's Chris Evans as his character from those terrible
Johnny
Fantastic
Storm,
Four.
Yeah, because he was in the first one, wasn't he?
He was in both of the original.
yeah.
Two of them, yeah.
So he says, he's like, Avengers Assemble, and he goes, flame on, and then like he flies up, and they're like, wait, what?
Deadpool's like, so close.
Yeah, and so then that's one of the first cameos, and they just continue to do that. So it's like you think, how is Captain America? Why is he in the no, it's Johnny Storm, and you're like, oh gosh, okay. But then,
I mean, if you ever saw, have you ever seen like Blade?
No.
Or which the early
I know Wesley Snipes made a cameo.
Right, he shows up. You have Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
I remember.
Channing Tatum showing up as the uncast,
the Gambit that never happened.
So the thing that I find interesting is because I remember just from the original X-Men, they never did Gambit.
No. Well, no, they did in X-Men Origins, the one you saw.
Yeah, but like he didn't count.
No, well, thank you. That's what everyone at the time said
else
too.
maintains too.
The problem they did
he wasn't
there,
the Gambit that I knew from the comics growing up or the cartoon.
Half the characters in those Fox X-Men movies weren't the characters that we knew growing up. They were completely different. So the specifically that Gambit though was John Carter from Mars. What's his name?
I don't know. Anyways,
yeah,
it's like it was set in the 70s, so they were immediately like, we're never coming back to this Gambit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, no, why would you put him in the one movie?
It's so rude.
So in this, there was, for the longest, Channing Tatum was saying, I have interest in playing Gambit. I want to play Gambit. And it just never...
He fits Gambit.
It never happened. So in this, he comes out in a 1990s comic accurate outfit.
I mean, yeah, he's
terrible hair, pink. And he talk a lot of that way.
I'm about to make a name for myself over here.
Like Deadpool's like, all right, Sling Blade, you got to repeat that because I didn't catch any of that.
No, his single best line is he keeps talking to him. He's like, "Who is your dialect coach? The Minions?"
Yeah. So the cameos that come in are fun because it's like it's Blade because they're trying to reboot Blade with Mahershala Ali as Blade now in the MCU, and Blade has this one line where he goes, "There's only one Blade," and then Deadpool just kind of looks at the camera and then goes back to riding in the car with him. And you're like, is it that he doesn't know? But my favorite fight scene in the whole thing is the fight inside the Honda Odyssey,
baby.
So in the early in the movie,
clearly promoted by Honda Odyssey.
Oh, it was an easy layup, I'm sure.
Dunk.
He's selling cars, right? And he's having this like thing where he doesn't want to sell cars. He's a loser. I feel like
no one wants to sell cars.
And so he's trying to sell this Honda Odyssey. And then later in the movie, when you get the really big Wolverine Deadpool fight, it's confined to inside of a Honda Odyssey minivan.
A beater Honda Odyssey.
And they
find
destroy this van. It lasts like all night, this fight. And it's almost like an analog for like a lovemaking scene in another movie.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
Right? But it's...
the camera pulls away and the car's rocking.
Yeah.
But then Deadpool gets punted up through the top of the roof and back down.
It goes back down. And so that's a fantastic, just funny sequence, but also there's, for being confined, a lot of really good action.
There's actually really good choreography.
And the choreography makes you go, wow, like someone had to choreograph a fight that takes place inside a minivan, and that's it.
And you can't also get you a camera in there.
Yeah. That's getting like general like Jackie Chan style vibes
100%
in there just because of such a closed, confined space, which he was a master at doing.
Right. And it feels also, refreshing.
Again, it's still Daredevil and Wolverine, so it's anything goes.
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
You said Daredevil.
Daredevil's blind.
Frick. forget Dad. He doesn't show up. They even make fun of the fact that, like, oh, I'm so sorry, Jared Leto's dead. And Elektra's like, I don't care.
Yeah, she's like, whatever. It's like, dang.
But Deadpool and Wolverine, because again, anything goes, they're just destroying each other in this van.
Yeah, but it's for me, it was a very anti-superhero movie fight. You know what I mean? And that was what was good about it. Was it like...
Well, so the biggest problem that you run into with any MCU film is the first, like, I'll say, like, 3/4 of a film can be really grounded and very fun and very compelling, and then it turns into an MCU film.
Right.
And that's always the problem. That's what happened with WandaVision, where, like, the first, like, 4 episodes are phenomenal. And then the last 2 episodes, you're like, okay, now we're back.
It's got to get to a big CG fight.
And I mean, they do lean into that by the end of it, where they have the legion of Deadpools that have been banished to the void, because of all the ones that ruin timelines, Deadpool is the most common.
Right.
And
that's like a running thing.
When they're fighting through, 100 Deadpools, it is the obligatory MCU big fight.
But it's done creatively.
They do a pretty good job with it.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is that, like, looking again at, like, the first Deadpool movie, the second one, and the third one, like, in the first one, it's, here's this guy, he kind of gets his powers, he meets a girl, he has cancer, they get through it, he does this experimental thing that gives him the healing powers, but then, like, he gets her back by the end. In the second movie, it's like, I want to make a life with you, she dies, he uses time to bring her back. In the third one, they kick it off with they're just broke up, and you're like, oh. And then by the end of it, they don't get back together, because really the crux of the movie is it's a bromance between him and Wolverine, right? And they slowly get, throughout the movie to back, to where the two, Deadpool and Wolverine, are like, it's like RRR to a degree, not really, but like, go ahead.
In the comics, do Deadpool and Wolverine, like, have any kind of, like, connection?
Again, I can only speak to what happened in the 90s, really, because I haven't read past like that. They are always adversaries. Like, in the 90s, there were only a couple of, like, begrudging team-ups. Most of the time, it's Deadpool's been hired to kill Wolverine, and it's weird because, and this is kind of a trick that I don't know how, or I don't think they will ever put Deadpool in an MCU movie other than his breaks own. Because he breaks it. So in the comics, I had a lot of Wolverine comics where Deadpool made an appearance and he never breaks the fourth wall because he's existing in Wolverine's comic book. So he's kind of like fighting Wolverine, and he's
stuck to those rules.
Well, and he's still wisecracking, but it's like, but
he has to follow the rules of the I'll say universe or whatever he's in.
There were Deadpool comics where Wolverine would appear in it, and then it's more Deadpool's Looney Tunes rules. And so I don't know it moving forward. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Stephen, of like how they could roll him into. I don't know how much
they ever really, because the pairing that I always see from I'm going to call it more modern comics is Spider-Man and Deadpool. Yeah, they get paired up and they play off each other with jokes and wisecracks.
I can see that. I mean, Spider-Man is probably good, foil,
but he's very like PC.
Of course,
he's a lot cleaner than Deadpool, and I think that's the tension.
That's some of the joke with it, but that's the team up that I always see.
But it's the same thing though. I think in Deadpool comics, he breaks the fourth wall and no one else does. In a Spider-Man comic, if
somebody
Deadpool
else's comics, he's stuck to the rules.
Generally, knock on wood. Again, I haven't read a lot. Like, I don't think he's breaking the fourth wall.
What I mean, like, this being, I guess, the third film in the trilogy at this point, like, where
do they go from here?
Well, I guess, where do they go from here? And for someone that hasn't seen them, and I don't really have a desire to see them, just because, like, I don't necessarily care, one, about MCU stuff unless I have to watch it, or two, I just don't really care about Deadpool, just because, I mean, it's just Ryan Reynolds playing himself, as far as I know.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. See, I think he is the character of Deadpool. It's just really easy because you don't really, he's always in the suit. You don't see Ryan Reynolds. It's easy to just be like, well, it's so natural. This must just be who he is. But this is not. There is no one would be married to this person.
No,
if this is what he was like all the time.
It is Ryan Reynolds times 1,000.
Yeah, this is an exponential.
Gotcha,
there's no way that in between scenes he isn't sitting to the side going,
right. But like, okay, so at the end of it, basically they save the universe because
Yeah,
like
of course.
the Charles Xavier, his sister, she's stuck in the what do you call
Void.
it? The void.
Yeah.
And she basically wants everything to be a void. She doesn't want to escape the void. She loves the void. She's the king of the void.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do love at the end. There's basically this machine. It's a MacGuffin. It's like the only thing that can.
It's a different way to destroy a timeline because
Sure.
they're not supposed to do that anymore because the TVA has been
TVA,
updated.
yeah.
Yeah. And so she's going to use it to basically get rid of everything but the void. And they're going to go down there and save it. And they're like, no one man can do this. It'll destroy you if you. Like,
Yeah, but you need the bromance.
basically,
yeah.
you got to make the conduit. You got to connect the thing.
Well, they don't do that deliberately. Like they actually have kind of the moment where they're about to go in the door where Wolverine tries to betray Deadpool so that he's the one sacrificing himself. And Deadpool betrays Wolverine so that he's the one sacrificing himself. So Deadpool's in there solo and Wolverine has to batter the door down. And like the line is literally, either one of you, it'll destroy you.
Yeah.
And so they clasp hands to make the conduit and they're going through it. So the minor villain is like upstairs explaining himself to the TVA lady. I cannot remember her name.
I can't either.
But she's in the first season of Loki. But he's like explaining, and he's like, it's so sad that they went down and he sacrificed himself. And then you hear Ryan Reynolds from off screen go like, and just like that, MCU Jesus rises. And he just goes, oh.
And then they play. So this movie is a very good example of like how to use pop music to like comedic effect.
Yeah.
Not like overuse.
Not like Super Mario Brothers.
Right. Or like I think of Captain Marvel, the first one, where they play I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt during the last fight, unprompted. They haven't used any popular music throughout the rest of the movie.
You're like,
and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So they go down there and you have this really fun scene where like as they're holding hands, Wolverine's suit bursts off his body and you just see Hugh Jackman's abs and like the camera pans and Ryan Reynolds like leans around looking at it. And then Hugh Jackman's just got shredded again for this. He's like, whatever. They come around after he says that and they play Goo Goo Dolls. And I don't want the world to see me. As they're in slow motion walking.
Like the sparks like coming out from behind them.
Stupidest thing ever. And I was cackling in the audience like, why Goo Goo Dolls? And so, anyways, the other thing that's really fun about that scene right before it is Wolverine gets in the traditional comic book costume.
He puts on the actual
blue and yellow
face mask.
Oh, really?
The face mask comes down, and of course Deadpool's like, why did it take him that long to do this? What are you doing, Fox? It's not that hard.
I mean, you pay your actors so you can see their faces.
Yeah.
But then they make another joke towards the end of it. So like the resolution of the movie is that they save the world. They save his timeline that was going to be destroyed. The Wolverine, the Logan that was the loser, has regained himself. He's here. Deadpool and his lady aren't back together yet.
Yep.
And they're in their own timeline. So they're kind of over here in this timeline. The MCU's rocking
on
over
their own
here.
thing,
So they're separate. And I feel like it's closed enough to where they don't have to make another Deadpool movie. However, since this became the number one highest grossing,
Disney's going to learn all the wrong lessons.
Joke they make at the end,
there it is.
with Hugh Jack or not Hugh Jack. I'm already breaking my own like the fourth wall.
Yeah.
He
With
says
Wolverine.
to Deadpool something like whatever, and he's like, "Oh, Disney's never letting you off the hook now." He's like, "You're gonna do this till you're 90."
You're gonna do this for the next 90 years. Yeah.
He's like, "You better keep in shape because like they're gonna be calling on you for the next 90 years."
So it's related. The Hot Ones episode with him and
very good episode
with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman doing probably one of my favorite episodes they've done.
It was a great one.
You can definitely tell that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have genuine like actual friend chemistry.
Oh yeah.
Where like they actually like enjoy each other's company, and that I'm assuming that probably transfers really well into the film.
Spectacular chemistry on screen.
1,000,000%. And it was, I told my wife, because like in the first two Deadpool movies, they make fun of Hugh Jackman a lot.
Yeah.
Like they have like Sexiest Man Alive, Men's Health with him on it.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds like, get that out of here, And then at one point at the end of the first one, he says to Vanessa, so in the first movie, he's like, I'm disfigured. You're not going to like me. And he takes the mask off and he's taken that picture from Sexiest Man Alive and cut eyes and a mouth out of it and taped it to his face.
He stapled it.
That's right. He staples it to his face. So when he takes the Deadpool mask off, it's this paper Hugh Jackman. So they've been joking that Wolverine should be in these movies since the front. They've just never had the budget. Like in the second one,
well, yeah, Hugh Jackman's probably a pretty pricey actor.
he was, and I want to say at the time, like that was. I think the first Deadpool came out before Logan, and the other one came out after.
He was like deep in his contract by that point, so like he has to be commanding as much money as he could.
Yeah.
And he after Logan, he's like, I'm out, like I'm good.
Yeah, this is it. We're making a swan song.
From what I think from the Hot Ones episode, he actually says that he was like, I literally told my wife that I was done. Yeah, and then not even like a week later, Ryan calls me and be like, hey, I want you to do this movie.
Yeah, no, and it's again, there's another, it's a Hot One episode, and there's one with it's not Vanity Fair, but one of those Hollywood Reporters, somebody did a lie detector test where like Ryan Reynolds gets to ask Hugh Jackman questions while he's on a lie detector, and then vice versa. Yeah. And like they ask some brutal questions, and they're like looking over at the lie detector. Because like the reason the first Deadpool got made is because footage of some test screenings got leaked online. And
leaked online.
So Hugh Jackman goes, "Did you leak it?" And Ryan Reynolds is like, I was aware that he tries to work around it, and the needle's like, Anyways, you can tell by their chemistry that they have a lot going on. But the last thing I want to say before we kind of wrap up is that, like, for me, it was very ironic to get out of the theater, seeing this movie, seeing how much they made fun of the MCU and how bad it's been since Endgame, making fun of like, no one likes multiverses. What do y'all do? They're just constantly ribbing.
Multiverses are so played out.
And I was hoping by the end of this movie that we were going to solve the multiverse problem
and
a little
then
bit.
Bring it back down to a singular timeline.
But they didn't, which I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be like this weird offshoot movie with a bunch of Fox villain references.
That's an R-rated film. That's the third in a trilogy. Yeah.
But it did feel like a very fresh change of pace for the MCU. And I was like, this feels like a good way to blend the Fox Deadpool in with this. Then literally like the next day they announced Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Dr. Doom.
Like, you guys
and the Russo brothers coming back, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, again, I feel like that could be good. I love RDJ. I want to see what they do with that. But it just felt like a weird like one step forward, two steps back move of like, this is a new approach, a new Disney, a new MCU, and then it's like, and we're bringing back the old stuff too, though. And I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
And I think to an extent, this movie felt in a lot of ways, it stood out from what we've gotten out of the MCU in the same way that something like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and how outlandish it was compared to what we were getting prior to that.
Refreshing.
Right. And it felt refreshing and fresh. And then you get a whole bunch of other movies where they're like, this is the formula. This is how we make money. Right. We do this. And it's like,
please don't.
Guys don't. So like, if they take this lesson from this film where it's like, oh, what a breath of fresh air. What a change of pace. And they're like, this is what you want. You want all of this. It's like, no, we really don't need, you don't need to do 6 more of these in a row. You need to do something else for the next film, and then come back to this 2 films later, or you got to vary it up a little. You can't just be like, this is the formula for money.
Well, and again, I think it was, you could tell that different creators were behind this. Obviously, Ryan Reynolds had a huge hand in it because it feels more like a Deadpool movie. I was worried going into it that they were going to take it and try to make it too much like a Guardians of the Galaxy or like what you would think of with like MCU comedy,
like a Thor Ragnarok.
So I'm glad they didn't do that. Yeah. They let it be its own thing, and because of that, it got to be really fun. It's a fun movie. It's just a lot. Like when you get to the end of it, you're exhausted. You're like,
it's like watching 1917. But for a different reason. But at the end of the film, like they have wrung everything out of you.
It's so many jokes, so many things, so fast that by the end of it, you're like, you can't even process. It's almost like you need to watch it a second time just to kind of like take in some of the stuff you may have missed. So it's just a lot.
I think Nick, I think at one point said like, this is one of those films because it comes in like right at just over 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, if they had put like 15 more minutes in this, and it's like, one, I don't really know where they would have put 15 more minutes in this because it feels snappy and well paced, and like they do give you some breaks in it where they let the emotions flow and that kind of stuff.
They let moments land to its credit. It's not like they rush through it. It's just there's a lot going on.
But like if you had another 15 minutes of this, oh man, I feel like you were already like pretty worn out by the end. Like this is a Zoomer film of just like boom, 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 tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And by the end of it, it's like, man, if there's another 15 minutes that I don't know if I could handle it.
Well, speaking of another 15 minutes onto the clock, I don't want to have another 15 minutes.
Oh, no.
Added onto this episode.
So rude. That's so rude.
I need you to monologue for 15 minutes, Andrew. Go.
Yes.
No,
tell us.
I'm not good at filibustering.
He's not good at improv either. It's a yes and, Andrew. Yes and. Yes and.
He's not good at filibustering. He's not good at monologuing.
No.
But yeah, so
He can turn invisible.
so
He can't do it on command.
final
Spider-Verse.
thoughts. Final thoughts from each of you, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a very fun movie. I want to see it again just to kind of, again, solidify my thoughts on it. Because it's just a lot coming at you. But I wish, my only complaint is just I wish that the beginning and end had a little more of a tie-in to the actual MCU and had kind of cleaned up what was going on. Because again, the whole middle makes perfect sense. It's just the front part. He's jumping timelines with a watch. I'm like, I guess it's time.
It's awkward.
It's weird, yeah. And then at the end, it's just the whole thing with him and his girlfriend felt unearned. It felt like we made so much progress in the last movie to just take that away.
No. I see. Now I'm going to object to you here.
Go for it.
Because I think it works. Because when the film starts, they're not together. You know, she's seeing someone else, and it's one of those,
a little bit.
It's one of those really awkward, like, how do you move on things. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, he's learned so much about himself. He's done so much. And it's not at the end of it, they kiss and make up. He gets the girl. That's the prize. They're still their own individuals. It's very much so like the Gamora after she's brought back.
Right, in Guardians 3.
In Guardians 3.
Gotcha.
It's very much so that kind of
closure,
vibe.
but it's more,
It's a bittersweet closure.
Yeah.
I think it's really just because I watched 2 right before 3. Like 2, it's like you're coming so much off of the high of the end of 2 that you come into 3 and it's like, wait, all that was for naught, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, if you're a Deadpool fan, slam dunk. If you're a Wolverine fan, a pretty slam dunk.
If you're a Hugh Jackman fan,
Slam dunk. This guy acts his butt off on screen.
He gets after it.
All right. Cool. Well, it sounds interesting enough. I'm still not terribly interested in watching the
strap
films.
him down in like a Clockwork Orange
I don't know.
chair
I may find the
gonna
desire at some point, and just plow through all 3 of them whenever it comes out on Disney Plus.
I would say watch the first one just
and
on a whim,
yeah,
because it's really not much of a buy. Like, it's not a long film, I don't think. And if it hits, all 3 films are going to hit. If it doesn't hit, then you don't have to bother with the other 2, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say that the third one's probably the most fun out of the 3.
This one does it does sound fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So if anything, I would just watch a recap of the first 2 on YouTube and then skip to the third one.
All right. Well, so before we go, we do have to talk about our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you get access to all of our bonus content.
Yes, it's the easiest and most direct way to support the podcast. We love it, and we have some fun bonus episodes over there.
If you want to hear us go super off main timeline,
there it is.
That's what this is about. We talk with ChatGPT. We jump out Deadpool style and fight monarchs.
Yep, it's a lot of good fun.
It's a good time. You also get access to our commentaries over there. We also do some Patreon picks polls where you get to pick a movie that we get to review, and patrons get early access to that before it hits the main feed. It's a great time. It's a lot for $1. A lot of quality content, if I do say so.
A lot of value.
Indeed.
But that does sound like all the time we have. So leave us a review, toss us a like, share us with a friend. We would greatly appreciate it. I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.
Absolutely.
It was.